most of you know me, but I am Kerry Harling, CEO and owner of the Holistic Highway. And let's get right down to it. And let me share with you how we have helped literally hundreds of people lose weight naturally. It's a big problem. And also help them to lose weight effortlessly as well through our simple 4-step Ayurveda weight balancing system. So I don't want you to worry about takeaways, handouts, and samples. We'll be sending those out to you, plus an opportunity to win a copy of our best-selling book, The 25-Day Ayurveda Cleanse, and a weight loss kit. So we'll talk more about that later. But I do want to sort of let you know that you have a lot of support on this call tonight. We have Lisa, our Ayurveda counselor, who is monitoring the chat and making sure that she answers all your questions. Say hi, Lisa. We muted her, so she may not be able to.
There we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome. So glad to see you all here.
Thanks, Lisa. And, you know, we couldn't do this without Rebecca. So we have Rebecca too, our marketing director and Ayurveda practitioner. And Rebecca is the glue that puts all this together and helps put this all on. So hi, Rebecca. Glad you're here tonight.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, it's great to be here. I see a lot of familiar faces on the call and some new faces too. So it's great to be here with you all. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the presentation.
Great. So just some tips to help you get the most out of this webinar. So first off, turn off everything that could be slowing you down. You know, this is a video call. It takes a lot of bandwidth. That's any email systems you have going on, Skype, iTunes, any of those extra programs, because that could slow you down and it could actually stop the video part of it. So also, silence your cell phone. Give yourself this time to discover how to lose weight naturally with Ayurveda, even in a pandemic. And we have muted you. Otherwise, we're going to hear everybody sort of rustling and sniffing and saying hi and dogs barking. So if you have been talking to us, hoping that we'd be paying attention to you, we're not. But do reach out to us on chat. Lisa is on chat, and we'll open it up for questions at the end. We are recording this webinar, but don't worry, none of your information is going to appear in the webinar. The recording link will be sent out to you in an email, probably tomorrow. Rebecca will do that. But I do want to ask you a question. Do you feel like you've put on the extra COVID-15? And I say that tongue in cheek because if you have actually been diagnosed with COVID-19 or have family members, I'm certainly not making fun of it at all. But are you feeling that your weight is out of control? And are you pretty much overwhelmed by all the competing weight loss promises, the supplements and programs that sort of flood your inbox? They certainly flood mine as well. And how many of you have actually struggled with yo-yo dieting? You know, the weight goes on, the weight goes off. I have a lot of clients who are pretty successful at dieting. They've lost lots and lots of weight. They just don't, they put it back on again. You know, there's those fad diets. How many of you are following either the blood diet, the Zone, Atkins, raw foods diets, low carb diets? And how many of you have lost weight successfully only to put it back on again? How many of you have reached out, especially lately, more towards emotional eating? And cravings. How many of you have cravings and fatigue and insomnia? This is all part and parcel of what we'll talk about tonight. So you are in the right place if you want to lose weight in an easy and natural way, and you want to lose weight without having to use an app, a smartphone, or a book to calculate carbs, points, or calories, and you really are looking for practical tips on how to stabilize blood sugar levels, increase fat metabolism, you become a really efficient fat burner, and you know you're not bothered by these cravings. You have really healthy cravings. So how are we going to do this? So I'm going to show you our system. Does not require calorie counting, measuring your food, saying no to almost anything that's a grocery store, or studying nutrition and memorizing points. So I want to share with you how we have helped lots of people lose weight naturally. And it's through our simple 4-step Ayurveda weight balancing system. And these graphics just represent the different steps, the 4 steps. We'll go over it all in detail. Plus, we're going to send you out our tip sheet, Sue, so that you'll be able to refer to that. But first, I do want to sort of talk more about some general tips. 4 things really, which are going to be really important regardless of your dosha. First off, I want you to throw out the scales, and we'll talk about why. Then secondly, our body has to realize that weight loss cannot be a struggle. If we're under stress, then we're struggling. Thirdly, we're going to talk about eating seasonally. And lastly, we're going to talk about eating just 3 meals a day. No snacks, just 3 meals. So the first thing, I want you to throw out the scales. Now, about 5 years ago, I made probably one of the best decisions of my life. It was a New Year's resolution, and they're always fun, aren't they? You always feel like doing something in New Year's. I actually gave up dieting. I threw out my scales, I stopped worrying about my weight, and learned to eat whatever I wanted. Now I eat whenever I'm hungry, and I don't worry about my weight anymore. It's not really a factor until this last couple of months. And to my surprise, I've put on about 20 pounds. So I reinstituted what's worked for me before, and now I'm dropping those pounds again. But I do understand what it's like to deal with weight. I first started dieting probably when I was about 13 years of age. I'd lose a little bit of weight, then I'd put it back on again. Then I would diet drastically to lose a little bit more. And I've tried probably all sorts of crazy diets. The cabbage soup diet, remember that one? Atkins diet, fasting, even those diet pills. Remember those diet pills that the doctor would give you, would prescribe for you? Most of those are banned now. Nothing worked long term. And when I gained the weight back, I blame myself. And we see our clients do that too. You know, they'll turn around and say, you know, I've lost weight, but, you know, I just put it back on and there's something I'm doing wrong. You're not actually doing anything wrong. What's wrong is your dieting, and that puts your body under stress, and it's not going to lose weight under stress, not long term, anyone. So I've been on various diets on and off, and I'm sure many of you know the feeling. And now I hear from many of my clients too, that the stress of the last few months has had them put on weight as well. So let's talk about some basic steps. And this one is throw out those scales. We become obsessed with numbers, don't we? With numbers on a scale. And when we take our weight, it is only the measure of gravity on us. It's nothing really to sort of get all het up about. But I've had people turn around and say, oh my God, I've put on 2 pounds. It is natural to fluctuate anywhere between 10 pounds in any given time period in any given day. So we as women, we do not need scales to tell us how we feel. We can put on our clothes and we know pretty much whether we've put on weight or whether we've lost weight. So go by that measure. And that's what we encourage clients to do. Go by how you feel in your clothes, because we have a lot of clients, when we put them on a cleanse, lose inches. They don't lose weight, but they've lost several dress sizes, they've lost inches, they feel really good. So that's your measure in how you feel. Tip number 2 for all of us is to eat just 3 meals a day. Our media actually is incorrectly telling us that eating many small meals a day is a better way to stabilize your mood and to lose weight. If you're hypoglycemic and have unstable blood sugar, then, you know, this temporarily will cover up your symptoms. But eating sort of 6 meals a day or sort of grazing throughout the day is never going to provide permanent blood sugar stability, because the body's going to become dependent on being fed every 2 to 3 hours. If a meal then is missed, the blood sugar is going to crash again. If we want the body to burn fat, we've got to give it a reason to do so. So why would the body burn its stored fat reserves if it's getting fed every 2 to 3 hours a day? When we eat this frequently, the body burns what it's just been fed and has no motivation to burn any kind of stored fat. When you eat breakfast and then eat nothing for lunch and then nothing until supper and then nothing until breakfast again, you're going to provide a natural fast in between meals. So fasting is good in the right places. If you have a snack, even a healthy snack like a carrot in between breakfast and lunch, you're going to burn the carrot, but not any stored fat. So if you have nothing between breakfast and lunch, your body's going to be forced to burn stored fat in order to get you through to lunch without a blood sugar crash. In the old days, not so old, we would have our evening meal, our supper, maybe 5 o'clock at night or 6 at the very latest, and then we would eat nothing until breakfast. And breakfast was normally around 7 o'clock in the morning. So it was pretty common to go 13 hours without food and then break that fast. And when we do that, we reset fat metabolism. So this tradition has been around for thousands of years around the world until now. And now we are the heaviest we have ever been. Eating 5 to 6 meals a day is just not sustainable. And that includes snacking. So if you grab a handful of nuts or a protein bar or an energy bar, your body sees that as a mini meal. So in the name of trying to stabilize blood sugar levels, and I've seen all what magazines have told us, that we need to eat little and often to stabilize our blood sugar levels, keep our energy up, and then we'll be able to lose weight. We've actually made the problem worse. After a few decades of eating 6 meals a day, our blood sugar levels have become so unstable. At first, you're going to feel better, but then shortly after, your blood sugar issues become worse. Now, if you are literally starving after 2 to 3 hours without food, then we need to talk, because something very seriously is going on. But think about it. If we actually needed food every 2 to 3 hours to survive, we'd simply have gone extinct by now. It's just not possible to do so. So it kind of makes sense that it's not really where we're supposed to be. And then our tip 3 is, we cannot have weight loss be a struggle. The more you strain, the more you starve yourself, the more your body perceives the weight balancing program as a fat storing emergency. When we're under stress, dieting puts our body under stress, but when we're under stress, and we've all been under stress with COVID-19, then the body goes into fight or flight situation. That's when it says it's not going to lose weight, because it doesn't know what's coming down the pike. So the body does what it's hot-wired to do for survival. It's going to store everything it can. It's a bit like putting your money under the mattress for a rainy day. The body's going to put its fat reserves under the mattress, so to speak, so it can also save it for when it might need it. So to get the body to burn fat naturally, we have to convince the body that there's no stress, that the war is over. And we do that by encouraging the body to burn fat naturally and effortlessly as well. So I do recommend following a whole food seasonal diet, and I'll send you out a copy of our seasonal grocery list for spring. Print it out, circle all the foods that you want to eat. You can eat as much of these foods as you like. Think in terms of what foods you can eat lots of. That there's never a do not eat food list. I think people will often say to me, or potential clients will often say to me, how do I eat Ayurvedically? There's no such thing as eating Ayurvedically. What's right is what's right for you. So as long as you're eating right for your dosha, you're eating in season, and you have a strong digestifier to be able to do it, then you are eating Ayurvedically. So I do offer a free trial to my meal plan that has 5 new recipes each week that's designed for your specific metabolic type or the dosha and the season that you're in. Each meal plan has a grocery list. That way you can just get all the right food over the weekend and just know that you're eating all the right foods for you throughout the week. But the key to weight loss is to focus more on when and how to eat rather than on what you eat. And that sounds a little strange, doesn't it? Because we spend so much time talking about, what calories, what carbs, what fat grams, what protein we should be having. So you'll quickly notice that eating whole foods rather than processed foods is going to help you make it to the next meal without having to snack. And if you eat seasonally, or you're not quite sure how to eat seasonally, then just take a look at my book, The 25-Day Ayurveda Cleanse, which does take into account that we need to eat seasonally. So a lot of those recipes are based on that, eating seasonally. So let's look at how to follow steps 1 to 4 each day. The 4-step Ayurveda weight balancing system is designed to teach your body to utilize fat as energy and cut out unnatural cravings for sugar. In the beginning, it may be a little difficult to make this transition. We're talking about eating 3 meals a day, but take as long as you need with each step. There's no rush, and you'll go at the pace that's right for you. But as your body becomes more stable with this program, then you'll be able to move from step 1, which is eating 3 meals a day, to step 2, to step 3, to step 4. And while you'll see weight loss in all of the steps, you're going to see the most weight loss in step 4. That's when significant weight loss happens. So if lunch is big and there's no hunger in the evening, move to stage 4. And we'll talk about each one of those stages. I don't want to confuse you before we've got there. So step 1, eat 3 good, healthy, and relaxed meals each day with no snacks. Now, if that's difficult for you to do because you're used to grazing, then start with 4 meals a day if you need to, but work down to 3. That you're not going to move on to step 2 of this weight loss program until you feel really comfortable in step 1. So if you're used to snacking or eating 5 to 6 small meals a day, then this first step may be a little bit more challenging, but stick with it. In a week or 2, you'll notice that you feel much more calm, you feel energized, you have a lot fewer cravings. And then once you master this step, then the next steps are going to be really, really easy, I should say. In America, everyone tends to focus on what you eat or what you shouldn't eat. We don't eat fats, we don't eat sugar, we focus on eliminating carbs. And everyone is so overwhelmed with how many proteins, fat grams, and calories that we're burning. But you know, one of my teachers did a study where all the people in the study had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Pretty simple, right? However, they were asked not to snack at all. That's no snacks. So 3 meals a day with no snacks. And they were like, what do you mean, no snacks? You mean, what about my power bar? What about my health bar? What about my protein shake? And he's like, no snacks. So once they finally realized that they were going to eat a larger meal for breakfast that was big enough to get them all the way through to lunch without cravings, and then at lunch, they were going to sit down and have a nice relaxing meal at the middle of the day that was going to give them enough energy then to get them through to their evening meal. Then at supper, they had a nice meal so that they could go to bed with no cravings, no desire to snack in the evening. Then they started burning fat as they fasted in between those meals. Imagine, if you will, a fire in your belly. This is your digestive fire. We want that fire to be good and burning strong for each meal. And each meal is like putting a log on that fire. So let's say we put a log on that fire for breakfast. But before that fire has been able to burn through that log, we've added a load of twigs. This is our protein shake, or maybe it's a handful of nuts we've grabbed, or maybe it's a couple of cookies. And then we add a few more twigs as we go past the pantry again. And then maybe we add something else as we grab something else. And then we get to lunch and here goes another log on. But that fire hasn't even got through that first log yet. And then we come into the afternoon, we're a little bored, we're a little munchy. So now we grab a handful of this and we grab a handful of dried fruit, and that's healthy, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. And then we get to our evening meal, which tends to be our biggest meal of the day. And then we put this huge log on top of this fire. And what happens to that fire at the end of the day? Remember, it's not burnt through the other logs yet. So it's not a nice roaring fire. This fire has been smothered. That's your metabolism from a Western perspective. You've just slowed everything down because that digestive fire cannot burn through all your food. So step 1 in your weight loss program is actually to eat. It's to have 3 meals a day. And that's meals, but not snacks. Constantly eating throughout the day and having mini meals, if you like, as much as you may read about it in magazines, is wrong. Nowhere in our history did we eat mini meals all day long. So for breakfast, eat a relaxing breakfast that is substantial enough to carry you through to lunch without needing any snacks or caffeine. So you'll soon notice that you need to eat whole foods to avoid snacking. If you're eating something very light or just a bowl of cereal in the morning, processed food, it's not going to be enough to sustain you. So if you normally grab a latte or a bagel or a breakfast bar while you're on the run, you're probably going to crash before lunch. Breakfast has to be large enough to get you through to lunch without hunger pangs. Now, it is important to exercise before breakfast. That's going to help sustain all that energy that you need throughout the morning. There are interesting cycles of nature that exist, and you can work with them or you can work against them. What I love about Ayurveda is it works with these cycles of nature. Did you know that your muscles are actually stronger between 6 and 10 a.m. in the morning? So it's a great time to be active. Do some yoga. Run up and down the stairs 10 times. You know, it's an incredibly effective way to stimulate your metabolism and get your body to start burning fat. Waking up in the morning and having a cup of coffee certainly injects you with a stimulant, that's for sure. And what goes up must come down. So you're going to come crashing down, and that's when you're going to start craving sugar. Your body's going to store fat because of the injectable that you've just given it, which is that caffeine. It's going to start your day with a roller coaster ride that's setting you up for fatigue, that's setting you up for depletion at the end of the day. We have a lot of clients who say, I am just exhausted at the end of the day. Well, they've been on this roller coaster up, down, all day. So starting your day with a bit of exercise makes huge sense. And after that, have a meal. It's going to give you energy and start fat burning. Your fuel will then be stable. Your body can relax. You won't have the highs and lows from that roller coaster ride. You certainly won't have the lows. And when we have that lows, that's when we start craving sugar or caffeine because your brain's out of gas. So when your brain's out of gas, it sends food craving signals. So it's really quite simple. Start with breakfast. That's going to be one of the best things to do. And then lunch needs to be the largest meal of the day. It should be a complete and again, relaxing meal. Eat enough at lunchtime to get you through to dinner without needing an afternoon snack, such as a chocolate bar or cheese and crackers or another cup of coffee even. But it is important during this meal to relax, not watch TV, not read, do emails, text, work, drive your car, or talk on the phone. For the body to digest a large meal and provide energy, you've got to be able to relax during the meal. It's important to take 5 to 10 minutes rest after a meal. Most people tend to work at their computer, and that's it. There's no rest, there's no break at all. So if you tend to work while you eat lunch, start taking 15 to 20 minutes away from your workspace to enjoy your meal. What you'll find is your productivity and efficiency will increase. You'll actually get far more done in the afternoon without snacking. So let's think about this for a minute. The morning is when you exercise, and studies have shown us that the middle of the day, between 10 a.m. and 2 in the afternoon, is when our digestive system is actually at its strongest. This is when we can digest our food more efficiently. In Europe, we eat 60% of our food before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They still take time out and relax during a meal, even that middle meal. They still have their biggest meal of the day at about 1 o'clock. And interestingly, this is when your digestive fire or your metabolism is at its most effective. Now, between 2 and 6 in the afternoon, those cycles change again. Remember, these are daily cycles or circadian rhythms. These daily cycles are important because what they do is they determine our hormonal changes, our digestive changes, and how much energy we have throughout the day. So between 2 and 6, your nervous system becomes active. Now your brain burns 80% of blood sugar between 2 and 6 in the afternoon. That means your brain is saying, I want 80% of your blood sugar and I want it right now. But your body is saying, well, I had a salad in front of the computer and I don't have energy right now. So maybe I'll have a Diet Coke. But that's really not going to cut it. The brain starts to scavenge all the blood sugar it can find. It takes it from the muscles, the liver, and your blood sugar levels dive. And as it starts to sink, normally about 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you start to think, Starbucks, chocolate, a soda. You need a snack. You need an injectable, something to give you that high again, to get you back up again. And remember, what goes up must come crashing down. So by the time you finish work, you've been on this roller coaster ride for hours. You can barely keep your eyes open. You start looking for another injectable to give you that energized feeling. Maybe it's chips as you cook your evening meal. Maybe you need a glass of wine to calm down because you're so wired from the day. We are constantly self-medicating as opposed to finishing the day with the exact same energy that we started with. So how can we remedy that? What can we do? Stop. Eat a relaxing meal in the middle of the day. I know it's hard for some of you, but make it a goal. Maybe just do it for a couple of times this week and see if you can see what it's like to stop and have a relaxing meal. And then supper needs to also be robust enough that's going to get you all the way through till the next morning. But supper should be a supplemental meal. It should be a soup-like meal. The word supper comes from the word soup or supplemental. It was never meant to be this large, heavy meal at night. Otherwise, we just won't have the energy until breakfast. When we fast at night, we burn fat. We reset fat metabolism. We burn our non-emergency fuel. This is when the body detoxifies itself. Humans are supposed to burn fat at night, in fact, all night long. And that's why breakfast is called break the fast, because we indeed break the fast. And when you break the fast, you burn fat. So all night long, we're supposed to burn fat. And some studies, unfortunately, have shown that Americans are not burning fat in the evening anymore. So I want to tell you a funny story. When I took my husband to Europe for the first time, he ordered a sandwich. And you can see the difference between a sandwich in the US and a sandwich in the UK. What he got were 2 slices of bread, not 3, slice of cheese, and a little bit of cucumber. He was absolutely dumbfounded. He said to me, where's the meat? You know, he was used to getting 1/2 pound of meat in a sandwich and 1/4 pound of cheese loaded with mayo, mustard, and fixins, as well as the standard packet of chips. He looked at his measly sandwich and he just felt he was not getting enough nutrition. He was not getting enough food. But we in Europe seem to be okay with that because we are used to making energy last with less. If you eat constantly, you force your nervous system into a hypermetabolic state that's going to deplete your reserves, continually telling your body that your life is in a state of emergency. And remember, when the body's stressed, it's not going to lose weight. When it's stressed, your body is going to give out all the messages to store fat, crave sugar, produce stress-fighting hormones. These are disease-producing. We often produce free radicals. We become more acidic. When we become more acidic, we can't move waste out of the system. And then when we can't move waste out of the system, we become congested, we hold on to water, we swell, we gain weight. And this is the disease process that we live every day in our lives here in America. So when we talk about eating snacks, little meals all day long, your body is just not going to burn that non-emergency stable fuel. You'll find yourself unstable. Your moods will go up and down. You won't be able to sleep at night. You'll become exhausted and you'll become worried. You'll become frantic. You'll become stressed. You'll become anxious. So all you have to do is stop and have breakfast. Just like in the study, you know, big enough to get you to lunch, lunch big enough to get you to supper, and supper big enough to get you to bed. And you'll see a huge shift. Now, in the study I'm talking about, we had people sort of have just 3 meals a day for 3 months, and then measured at the end of 3 months their anxiety levels, their depression levels. We put them on a depression scale, their cravings, their fatigue, and their weight gain. Everybody in that study lost an average of 1.5 pounds a week. But most importantly, their anxiety, depression, their fatigue, and their cravings were significantly improved in just after 2 weeks. They didn't even have to wait to the end of the study. So how did that happen? Why did that happen? It's because they got off that roller coaster. And instead of forcing their blood sugar levels up all day long with these tiny meals, they started to force the body to burn fat. They got stable for the first time. So we need to convince the body that it's not at war, that it's not at stress. And then when it can do that, then it can let go of that weight. So the best way to start that, 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, once we've done that, once you can eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner with no snacks, and you feel really comfortable doing that, you're not craving, you know, ice cream at night time or potato chips at night or popcorn, you're really comfortable getting through the day that way, then move on to step 2. It doesn't matter whether your neighbor's doing this or whether your friend's doing this and they've already moved on to step 2, it's what's right for you. So only move on to step 2 when step 1 is easy, which is eating 3 meals a day. Pretty simple, huh? Not so easy to do. When I talk to clients who come into a program, many people skip breakfast. A lot of people skip lunch too. And then we have a big meal in the evening. So it is really resetting that whole thinking there. So now we're moving on to step 2. Step 2 is have a light supper. So we've done breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're happy now. We're not snacking. Now we're going to progress a little further. We're going to make supper even lighter, such as just a soup or a salad. So you'll do this gradually. I mean, sort of gradually work on eating a smaller supper. You can have like a seasonal soup or a salad. Think of supper as supplemental rather than as your main meal. If you find that you need more food one evening, go ahead, have more food that evening to feel comfortable and satisfied. And then the next day, eat a larger lunch so that you can make it through to your evening meal without sort of any hunger. So, you know, if you're just unable to do this step and you just can't survive on just a soup or a salad, then you may have a blood sugar imbalance. Then schedule sort of a chat with me so that we can tailor the program more to what's going on with you. Now, it is important to become a really efficient fat burner. And why do you want to burn fat? And you do, because burning fat does way more than just make you lose weight. It includes moving those stubborn fat-soluble toxins, but you have to give your body a reason to burn the fat. If you eat breakfast and nothing else till lunch, you'll burn fat in between those meals. And, you know, even if you have a healthy snack, like a celery stick or a carrot, you're going to burn that celery stick or the carrot. And that's not bad. It just means you're not going to burn fat that day. So becoming an efficient fat burner helps you maintain a healthy weight too. It's a calm fuel for the body. You're going to feel relaxed in your body. Your body's not under stress, which it is when you're dieting. It's that non-emergency stress-reducing fuels that tells you that the war is over. You don't have to stress out about anything. When you're able to do that, that's also going to neutralize any disease-producing acids that, you know, let's face it, are created from excess stress. So we're able to detoxify damaging fat-soluble chemicals that can store for up to 20 years in your fat cells. There's a reason your body puts toxins in fat cells. It's safe. Your body doesn't want those toxins running around your body. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, but the body naturally detoxifies. You're absolutely right. It does. We have great detoxifying systems in place. We are not so good with fat-soluble toxins. They're water-based toxins. So these fat-soluble toxins are stored in fat cells. The body does that as a protective measure for you. So in those fat-soluble cells, or in those molecules, let me start again. In those fat cells where we've stored those toxins, we are also storing molecules of emotion. And when I heard this, I raised an eyebrow and thought, we do not store our emotion in our fat cells. I mean, I'm science trained, come on. But then I saw a study that Harvard did that actually, yes, this is the first time we can quantify and qualify that we actually store molecules of emotion in our fat cells. So when we put somebody on a cleanse, for example, which removes those toxins from the fat cells, we are very careful to say that a cleanse is as much an emotional cleanse as it is a nutritive cleanse or a physical cleanse as well. Also, you want to become a fantastic fat burner because that then is going to stimulate lymphatic drainage. And that's part of your immune system. So really important. We've talked about that in other webinars. So how do we transition to just 3 meals away? So 3 meals a day, I should say. So if you're used to grazing, or don't even consider that you graze, but you have a snack mid-morning and you have a snack mid-afternoon, or in effect, you are eating more than 3 meals a day, you could start with just eating 4 meals a day and then work towards 3 meals a day. Make each meal count by stopping to relax, enjoy each meal. We do tend to gobble down our food, and it's a means to an end, isn't it? But eat enough at breakfast to carry you through to lunch. Eat a big, warm, satisfying lunch between 10 and 2. Eat enough at lunch to carry you through to supper. Eat an early and light supper. Eat enough at supper to carry you through the night until breakfast, but think of supper as being something supplemental. It is not your main meal of the day. Now, to help with blood sugar levels, sometimes it is important to reset the pancreas because the body is responding to all meals still as an emergency. So there are some great herbs that we can use that I just want to run by you. One is called Gymnea, or you can see it often advertised as something called Sugar Buster. What this does is it resets the islet cells in the pancreas, stabilizes blood sugar levels and insulin levels. And then there's one of my favorite, Trifala, meaning 3 fruits. We often use that in our cleanse. That tones the digestive system. And it's also a great antioxidant because it's made of fruits. And then Trikatu, tri meaning 3 again, Katu meaning pungence. So Trikatu is really, really good for anybody who has that heavy, sluggish digestion, that they're just not hungry for meals. They feel pretty nauseous. They feel that their food just sort of sits there. Often we see that with kaffas when they're out of balance. Then Trikatu is absolutely perfect. Do not take Trikatu if you have acid reflux or any kind of heating GERD or anything like that, because it's 3 pungents. It's going to exacerbate that. So step 1 in our weight loss program, just to recap, is to have breakfast, lunch, and supper. But here's a little bit of a treat for you. Before you go to bed, you can have a couple of herbal tea, like peppermint tea with raw honey. Herbal tea with peppermint and raw honey will not break the fast. Honey has this wonderful ability of not changing blood sugar levels. So it also helps with craving. So if you do feel that you're feeling a little bit hungry in the evening, then peppermint tea and honey is going to be really nice. So just some herbal supports that would be nice. And in the weight loss program, or the weight loss kit that I'll send to one of you, I'll send out some Trifla and some Trikatu. Now, I have heard the argument, and it's often brought up to me, that when we were hunter-gatherers, well, we ate food all day long. We kind of grazed on nuts and berries, but that's actually not true. Anthropologically speaking, and that's a tough word to say, anthropologically, but anthropologically speaking, people didn't graze all day long. They had woolly mammoth soup maybe one time, and then they sort of ate that for 5 days, and they got lucky if they were able to eat for another 5 days. It was feast or famine. And we had to have the ability in our bodies to get through long periods of fasting with stable blood sugar levels, and therefore burn fat, remain slim, and be able to detoxify. So how you eat your food is probably the most overlooked piece of the weight loss puzzle in America. We eat on the run. We go, and we keep going, and nobody stops time or stops and takes their time to eat their food really well. When I run the Ayurveda Sanctuary, which is our signature retreat, I get people from all walks of life that come to that with all kinds of symptoms as well, especially weight problems. And what's interesting is after all their treatments, after their rejuvenative therapies, their great food, their relaxation, learning how to take care of themselves, the thing I hear most when I ask them what is their take home from their time at the Ayurveda Sanctuary, they say, I learned how to stop. And for many, it was the first time they learned how to stop, relax, and eat their food. But food for many of us is a bit like a gas station. You know, you come into the station, you fill up, and then you just go. And this is our American culture right now. We get in our car, we eat, and we go. That, unfortunately, is a dangerous way to sort of go through life. I have to say, how you eat your food is just as important as what you eat, and just as important as when you eat. And since we are overly focused in our culture on what we eat, and you know, many of us do eat healthy foods, then it stands to reason that the how and when we eat is also really important. If you go to a lot of different countries in Europe, they eat many foods that we would consider bad foods. You know, they eat a lot of meats, breads, cheeses, the things that we would say we should not be eating in this country. In Italy, it's pasta. In Germany, it's meats and sausages. In France, they're known for their duck liver, their cheese, their pastries, and their wines. All the things that we say are not good for you. But in England, Germany, France, and Italy, where there are those heavy meat and cheese diets, heart disease is very low. There's relatively low cancer rates, low blood pressure, and not so much obesity. The only risk factor for all those conditions, believe it or not, is being an American. So when you look at that, then what are we doing? Are we eating healthy foods? We tend to pride ourselves of, you know, we eat organic, we eat clean, we have no fats, all good foods, but then what's going on? I think we have lost the connection to the farmer. We don't eat seasonal foods. We eat the same foods all year round. No animal or bird could ever do that because it just doesn't exist anywhere in nature to just eat the same foods constantly. We've lost that connection to the natural cycles. And when you look at our culture, we don't stop, we don't take time, we eat on the run, we gobble down our food. So relax, make your meals sacred. Engage in the process of eating your food. How does it smell? How does it taste? How does it look? Is it pleasing? Is it appetizing? What about the texture? In other words, eat mindfully. You know, it sounds pretty simple and maybe, you know, leave a little out there, but it is incredibly powerful to eat mindfully. Meals are sacred in so many traditional cultures. They would never think of eating in their car or on the run or having somebody throw a burrito at you as you drive by. These things, eating while you're driving, even when you're watching TV, is such a foreign concept for most of the world. And it has an effect. It puts the body under stress. And when your body's under stress, we've already said it's just not going to lose weight. Talking about losing weight, I am drinking my weight loss tea. This is our Ayurveda super tea, cumin, coriander, and fennel. So let's move on to step 2, but only when, or step 3 rather, but only when step 2 is really easy to do, which is having that very light supper in the evening. So we started with 3 meals a day. That's it, with no snacks. Now we have a very light supper. Let's see what we're going to do next. Step 3 is we're going to make supper even earlier. So now we're in the third part of our weight loss program. We're not going to move on to step 4 until this step is effortless as well. So now that you can easily eat a light supper, because we've got there, our next goal then is to eat earlier in the evening. That's even before 6 at night. Your digestive fire is slower in the evening, so that later that you eat, even if it's light outside, what happens the later we eat is your body just stores that then as fat rather than digesting it really well. Have you ever sort of woken up in the morning where you just feel heavy and bloated and just not very hungry? That's a clear indication that you probably ate something too heavy that you've not digested well the night before. Or have you ever had weird dreams and you wake up just not refreshed? That's another indication that you're just not digesting your food at night. We don't digest our food well because we're under stress. So make supper earlier, eat before 6 o'clock, and then that's it, you're out the kitchen. And it's really important that those lighter suppers that you're now doing are not consumed after 6, as the body's moving to a different phase in its circadian rhythm, in its cycles, and that's namely rest. So by completing your last meal of the day at 6, you are truly going to fast then for about 13 hours if you don't have breakfast until 7 in the morning. During that 13-hour fast, you're going to be burning fat, balancing your blood sugar, moods, and energy. Now, if you're like, well, I'm really hungry, I can't sleep at night because I'm so hungry, then have a glass of water and then shift bedtime even earlier if you need to. You know, if you're not going to bed till 1 o'clock in the morning, but you've eaten before 6 at night, that's a long time to go. So bedtime between 10 and 11 is perfect this time of year for all of us. So now we're going to move on to step 4, only after you feel really good eating a light supper early in the 6 o'clock. So you're going to do that for a couple of weeks. Once you're kind of like, yep, I got this now. Now we're going to move on to step 4. We can do step 4 probably for about 4 weeks. And what we're going to do here is we're going to skip supper 2 to 3 nights a week. Believe me, you will not starve, I promise you. Many people are very afraid if they don't get food or they think they're going to skip that evening meal. But remember, you've built up to this. This is not something you're going to do tomorrow. So you've had 3 meals a day, you've stabilized your blood sugar levels, you've had a lighter meal in the evening, you've brought that meal even earlier. So you're probably a good month, 6 weeks into this process. Now what you're going to do is skip supper 2 to 3 nights a week. You can drink warm water between meals. You can have herbal tea with raw honey before bed if needed. But skip supper 2 to 3 nights a week. Coming back to that study that we did where we did breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we took everybody through this exact same thing. The study showed that there was no hunger. Your blood sugar levels have become so stable at this point that you're off that roller coaster ride. You're burning fat, you're starting to feel really good, you're starting to lose a lot more weight at this point. And in step 4 is when you're going to see the biggest weight loss. And we start seeing weight come off in chunks, sort of 5 pounds or 10 pound increments. So it's not this sort of, you know, a couple of pounds here or a couple of pounds there. You're really actually going to see some significant weight loss here. So we talked about sort of enjoying your cup of herbal tea. This is probably going to really help having that sort of herbal tea with raw honey, because once we set up that we can't do something and we feel deprived, that too puts stress. So this isn't a diet by any means. So I don't want you to feel stressed. So go ahead, have some herbal tea and some honey. You'll feel really good. And we're going to continue this step where we're skipping food or skipping our evening meal probably for anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks. I mean, it depends upon you. It depends how much weight you have to lose as well. Now, probably the most common cause of weight gain or digestive problems or lymph congestion and poor detoxification is actually dehydration. When we're young and healthy, the body has up to about 80% of water, but as we age and we degenerate, we can get as low as 50% of water. So hydration is really crucial for maintaining optimal health. Once dehydration sets in, it's really difficult to rehydrate without sort of really special care. So I want you to sip on plain boiled hot water in between meals. This is actually an Ayurveda treatment for flushing out the lymphatic system. It also softens hardened tissues. It dilates, it's cleansing, and it hydrates those deep tissues. It also heals and repairs the digestive system. It flushes the GALT, which is the lymph system on the outside of the intestinal walls. But why boiled water? Well, when you boil water, you're going to boil off all those dissolved mineral solids in the water, making it much, much easier to absorb. Our cells have on them tiny pores called aquaporins, which are pores that function to absorb only water. So distilling or boiling water is actually the best way to get pure water and nothing else. You don't want anything else in your water. Not sure about that? Just try it for a week. Commit to sipping hot water, not cold, but hot water. Try it just for one day, but do it well. And if you crave more hot water at the end of the day, then it's a clear sign that you're dehydrated. And then knowing that, it's probably going to give you the motivation to continue it on if you feel that you're dehydrated. So we have talked about when you eat. We have talked about how you eat. The last piece of the puzzle is what to eat. So it is important to change your diet according to the seasons. If you are eating just a low carb diet all year round, which is very popular right now, then this is what will happen. First off, you'll lose weight. Yep, you absolutely will. So a low carb diet seems to be the best way to go because you're going to see that weight loss initially. You lose weight though, because the only place your body gets energy or the next place to get energy is your fat. So you're manipulating your body to burn fat, and maybe sometimes that's a good thing to do to help jumpstart your weight loss. However, getting off that diet and getting back to a way of life eating is a critical piece that you're not going to be able to do because you've gone on a high protein, low carb diet for a good amount of time. You will lose some weight, but then you'll find yourself feeling ill from all the protein, and you'll start having cravings for what you're not able to do. I don't know whether you heard about the study that MIT did. They took a bunch of mice and they put them on a low carb diet and they all lost a bunch of weight. But as soon as they started eating normally again, something quite extraordinary happened. They all binged on carbohydrates. They went crazy for carbs. In fact, they wouldn't stop eating carbs. They got bigger, they couldn't fit in their spinners, and they became really, really obese. So the idea is that going on an extreme diet for a short period of time to get the body to burn some fat, like a low carb diet, is not so bad initially, but it can't be a way of life. So what about eating seasonally? In the winter, the harvest is completely different than in the summer. Would you agree? Nature has harvesting cycles, and in my programs, we take into account the 3 growing seasons. And these are the seasons that we actually take our food from. So they're kind of important. And the first season is, of course, spring. And that's pretty much where we are right now. And in spring, we're going to see fluorescent greens. We're going to see sprouts, berries, cherries, grapefruits even. All these are really powerful cleansing foods that are low-fat foods. These low-fat foods in springtime make our bodies burn our own fat and detoxify our own fat. If you ate a high-fat diet in this season in spring, like cheese or pizza, you're not going to burn your own fat. Spring is the body's detoxification time of year. So it makes sense that we have naturally a low-fat diet in spring. That's going to force us to burn our own fat after the heaviness of winter. So for example, if you joined a CSA, or maybe you're going to the farmer's market to get your food, you'll be getting a lot of leafy greens right now. These are naturally detoxifying foods. They're cleansing. They're going to lighten you up. They're going to brighten you up after that heaviness of winter. And these are also alkaline foods. And alkaline foods are the natural antidote to the allergy season. So nature provides the perfect foods for you. And in spring is when we should have a low-fat diet. Now, come summertime, the growing season changes dramatically, doesn't it? Now it's the fruits and veggies that are harvested for their energy. This is a high energy time of year. We have longer days, we have shorter nights. This is the time of year when the body needs a lot more energy. This is the time of year we need carbohydrates. We need that fuel for the longer days and the shorter nights. So what happens is that nature gives us these high carbohydrate foods. This is actually the time for a high carb diet in summertime. But if you ate that diet, a high carb diet for years in a row, you're eventually going to miss out on 2/3 of nature's harvest. And then you're going to start binging on what you're just not getting. So nature provides 3 harvests. The next is the grain harvest. And in the fall and winter, then we find those heavier foods. We find the grains, the nuts, the heavy root vegetables, the winter squashes. These heavy foods store really well, and they're higher in protein. They're higher in fats too, and also higher in vitamins and minerals. In winter, we store these naturally high protein fats because what they do is they combat the cold and dry season of winter. So we need a high protein diet in the winter time. So high protein diet in the winter, to a low fat diet in the spring, to a high carb diet in the summer. And isn't it interesting? These are the 3 top best-selling diets that we have on this planet. And they're available naturally in nature, but for 4 months of the year only. Just sticking to one type of diet is just going to put stress on the body. And while initially you may lose weight on any one of these 3 kinds of diets, you can see how it's just not going to work all year long. So let's pretend we're all living on a farm, eating seasonally. We're going to eat more protein in winter. So an example would be squirrels. They eat nuts and protein in the winter because these foods are acidic, and acidic foods store nutrition better. They keep us warm. They keep us from getting cold, and acidic foods naturally build the body. They're restorative. They're going to help rejuvenate the body during the long winter months. But come spring, we have all this excess acidity now, and we need to detoxify the body and move the waste out of the body with alkaline foods. And indeed, the spring harvest is an alkaline harvest. It's those leafy greens, the early sprouts, wheatgrasses. These are also lymphatic movers as well, which is incredibly detoxifying. So does this mean you can't have a slice of bread in spring? No. It just means that you should eat more of what nature is providing this season, and then your weight will balance naturally. So a really good detoxifying dish or recipe in spring is actually khichdi. It's an Ayurveda dish that really resets the digestion, gets you back on track, and we'll send you out a recipe for khichdi so that you have it. And then moving into the summertime, the fruits and vegetables that are designed specifically as medicines for this time of year, we tend to accumulate more heat in the environment over the summer, and the body needs to purge this heat at the end of the summer. And you can see it in nature at the end of summer with naturally purgative foods. Think about it. What foods are naturally in abundance at the end of summer? I'm up here in New England. We have an abundance of them. That's apples. So if you go to the New England or the Northwest, they're going to eat apples in the fall. And you can find apples everywhere. Apple cider, apple parties, apple butter, apple pie, apple soup, baked apples, apples this and apples that. And apples remove the heat in your body. They have a purgative effect. apples cause loose bowels. So it's a way to relieve the heat of the summer, to get that heat out of the body that's built up in the body over the summer. So again, nature provides the perfect food at the perfect time. Let me give you an example of how this works. Dandelions. Many of you are mowing lawns right now. You have dandelions. My God, they're a pest. They don't make the lawn look very nice. Dandelions are a plant. We know that. We tend to sort of get rid of them in our gardens. But this is one of the spring mainstays I want you to consider. Dandelion is a detoxifying, water-moving herb. It flushes water out of your system. The name for dandelion in the old days, before in France, they called it tooth of the lion, which is dandelion. It was also called piali, which means to pee in the bed. So every self-respecting Frenchman knew that it meant that if you ate this herb before you went to bed, then you're going to pee in the bed. So don't eat this herb before bed, because it's actually a diuretic and would move liquid out of your system. So in spring, think about the qualities of spring. It's a wet, heavy, muddy, rainy, congestive time of year. So this leafy green is a water-moving diuretic and a lymph-moving detoxifying plant. That's the call from nature. It's an antidote to this congestive time of year. So next time, make some dandelion tea. So we've talked a lot about food, and we need to bring in exercise as part of a weight loss program too. And I'm often asked, what is the best exercise? Why won't I lose weight when I exercise? And whenever I start a new exercise program, I get injured. How can I avoid this? Well, doing appropriate exercise, where fat replaces sugar as your main fuel supply, means that you're going to naturally lose weight, you're going to detoxify, you're going to boost energy, you're going to stabilize your mood, and exercise helps you get really fit too. But it's interesting because new research shows that this can be done in as little as 12 minutes a day. This is a simple, doable amount of exercise for all of us during the 4-step Ayurveda weight loss balancing system. Yes, you got to move. You absolutely do. But most of us, when we think about exercise, you know, we huff, we puff, we gasp. It's that sort of no pain, no gain attitude. We push ourselves into a level of exhaustion that makes our body stressed. Again, when the body is stressed, what does it do? It stores fat, craves sugar. So recently, exercise understanding has changed, and it's a good reason it's changed. To stay vibrant and healthy, we want to develop the ability for our heart rates to go up and then function at rest with the incredible efficiency of a low resting heart rate. So I am going to ask you to exercise every day for about 5 to 10 minutes minimum, and breathe deeply in and out of your nose. If you find that your exercise has you gasping for breath, then you're going too hard. Slow down, reset, do some calm breathing exercises, and then get back to exercise. If you find that you become short of breath again, back off again. During appropriate exercise, fat replaces sugar. We've talked about that. But the experience of doing less to accomplish more is so incredible to me. And I've seen it work time and time again with our clients. After years of being bombarded with training theories that included 45 minutes on a treadmill and an hour at the gym, the majority of people are just not exercising correctly. We can accomplish more with just 12 minutes a day. So let's take a look at what that looks like. But before I want to get into the exercise part and how we do that, there has been some considerable research on exercise, and especially the role of breathing in exercise, as to whether it's better to breathe through your nose or breathe through your mouth. And this is important. Let me take you through a scenario. If you saw a bear in the woods, I would very much doubt that you're going to take a deep nasal breath through your nose and let it out through your nose. The nose is a breathing device that's engineered to drive the air through turbinates in it, like a turbocharger in your car, and drive the air all the way down into the lower lobes of your lungs. And guess what's in the lower lobes of your lungs? non-emergency receptors. These are the parasympathetic receptors. This is the calm receptors. But did you also know that in the upper lobes of your lungs are stress receptors? So you see a bear in the woods, you take a deep gasp, which triggers those upper receptors. That tells you you're in a pretty bad situation right now. In fact, you're in an emergency situation. Yep, there's a bear chasing you. It's time to store fat, crave sugar, get you out of this mess. But when you breathe through your nose, it's really calming. Neurologically, when you breathe that way through your nose, studies show that the brain goes into an alpha meditative state. There was another study that I was reading about where they compared nasal breathing exercising with mouth breathing exercising, and found that during physical exertion, when people were huffing and puffing through their mouths, their brain waves were just going frantic. Their perceived exertion was really high. So on a scale of 1 to 10, they were asked, what is the exertion rate of this exercise? 1 is the lowest, 10 is the highest, and they all said a 10. They were stressed. Now, the same people in the study came back the next day. They did the same workout, but this time they kept their mouths closed and they breathed through their nose. Their brains went into an alpha meditative state during that exercise. Remember, we want to burn fat to get the nervous system to say that life's great, life's not stressful. Only then will we burn fat. It's not going to burn under stress. So we had them go through this vigorous exercise state, but the brain actually perceived this or responded to it as a non-emergency state. If we can do that, then that's going to be optimal for weight loss. So in this study, the perceived exertion when nose breathing was minimal was actually a 2. So those that did the mouth breathing thought their exercise was really tough. They thought it was a 10, exact same exercise. But then when this group did it the next day, breathing through their nose, they perceived that exertion rate as a 2. They felt calmer, more focused, and more still. So if you can experience a neurological impact that is calm in the midst of this sort of dynamic activity of exercise, then you're going to enjoy a really good fat burning experience during the entire time of your workout. So the 12-minute routine that we're going to look at can actually be performed daily or minimum of 3 times a week. So whatever works for you. That's going to give you definitely some cardiovascular improvements. I would do it every day through this 4-step Ayurveda weight balancing program. This can be your entire workout, or, you know, if you're used to being really fit and being very active, this can be your cardiovascular warm-up before you do yoga or a bike ride or hiking. Now, we've touched on nasal breathing and the importance of that while exercising. Let's talk a little bit about the role of meditation as well in a way to improve exercise and ultimately weight loss. And we don't tend to think of meditating as creating weight loss. I remember as I was studying Ayurveda at Kripalu, I met one of my teachers, and he was a mentor too at the time. And at that time, I was training for a 200-mile bike ride, but I wasn't feeling good doing it. I was exhausted. I was getting dizzy in classes. I was beginning to wonder if I was just doing too much. So I asked this Ayurveda doctor, you know, I'm training for this 200-mile bike ride where I'm exerting myself, you know, quite a lot with all the cross training that I'm doing as well. Do you think that this is healthy according to Ayurveda? So he responded and he said, well, why are you doing it? Well, wimpishly, after an awkward moment of realizing I had no idea why I was doing it, except just to do it, I responded, because I think I can do it. And he asked, do you meditate? Suggesting that if I meditated, I wouldn't be attempting such a foolish thing. But I proudly responded, yes, I meditate. And he said, well, do you fall asleep when you meditate? And I said proudly, absolutely. I fall into the deepest sleep imaginable every time. He responded and said to me, sleep and meditation are different. When you meditate, you should not sleep. Sleeping during meditation means you're exhausted and probably exercising too much. So I said back to him, well, if I can meditate without falling asleep, then the amount of exercise I'm doing is okay. Is that correct? And he said, yeah, correct. So I started exercising less and meditating more with the hopes of not falling asleep. To my surprise, it was actually really, really hard because I was exhausted and I didn't realize how exhausted I was. I slept every time I tried to meditate. But I did shorten my training rides from hours to minutes with periods of recovery. At that time, I was never able to complete a longer bike ride without feeling exhausted and depleted and having to sort of lay on the couch for a while. I had reached a point where I just wasn't improving. But within a couple of months of following my new training regimen of working out less and meditating more, basically getting more rest and exercising more efficiently, I started to feel better and better and being able to do more exercise without feeling quite so fatigued. So this experience of doing less and accomplishing more was so incredible to me that we share it with all our clients now when they come into a program with us. And we actually don't like the no pain, no gain attitude. It puts the body under stress, and that's not going to help you lose weight. So let's look at the steps here. So step one, we're going to do a warm-up. You can go for a walk, a jog, a bike ride, or use a cardio machine like an elliptical trainer if you have one of those at home. Exercise slowly for 2 minutes while maximally breathing in and out through your nose. Nasal breathing is a skill that's going to take some time. It did with me because we want to breathe through our mouth. But don't worry if you have to mouth breathe. Just do the best that you can. And in time, the nasal breathing is going to get easier. And then step two, this is where you're going to sprint. Start exercising faster, like a mini sprint, about a minute. Use the nasal breath during the sprint if you can. It may slow you down a little bit, but don't let it slow you down too much. Don't push here. Start slow, build yourself up to a faster sprint over time. Try to do a sprint pace that you can maintain for a minute. And in a couple of weeks, you'll be sprinting like a pro, I promise you. And then we want you to recover. Slow the exercise all the way down to a warm-up pace for about a minute. Maintain that nasal breathing if you can. That's going to be really important. And then what that's going to do is force air into the lower lobes of the lung. That's going to allow for more efficient release of carbon dioxide. It's going to activate those calming parasympathetic nervous system stressors. That's going to help you release toxins. It's going to help you release stress as well. And then you're going to do a second sprint. Start another sprint for 1 minute. Make this a little faster if you can. Continue that nasal breathing as well. Sprints can be running up and down the stairs, jumping jacks, jumping on and off a curb for 1 minute. Just get the exertion up a little bit more. It can just be a really fast walk as well. And then you want to go into your second recovery. So you're going to recover from that sprint with 1 minute of deep nasal breathing again, but at that warm-up pace. If you can't maintain the nasal breathing during recovery, then the sprint was too hard, but it will get easier. And then continue sprints and recoveries for a total of about 4 all in all, 4 sprints, 4 recoveries. Follow that nasal breathing if you can. And then important to get into cool down. And in cool down, you're going to repeat that step 1, which is the warm up. Exercise slowly with deep nasal breathing for about 2 minutes. Now, it is important to avoid the dangers of over-exercising. There's an increasing and an incredible amount of more and more research indicating the damage that we do with sort of long, slow, steady training on the heart. In one study that I was reading, 80 marathon runners were tested for the kinds of heart-damaging chemicals that we often see after a heart attack. Prior to the marathon, the runners were free of all these chemicals, but what was interesting is right after the marathon, and even 3 days later, all of the runners showed the kind of early stage cardiac damage seen after a heart attack. So it's clear that long, slow duration workouts in your heart rate training zone are really not necessary. And in some cases can actually be damaging to your heart. In 12 minutes, that's all this is, you can get the cardiovascular base and still be free to enjoy a fun bike ride, hike, or do some yoga. So less has been proven to be more. And the benefits of this kind of exercise are pretty compelling. If you're able to maintain nasal breathing during this workout naturally, then that's going to sort of govern in a very safe way how much exercise is good and how much more could be potentially harmful. So there are many benefits with this sort of sprint recovery training. You're going to increase fat metabolism. It's going to calm that central nervous system. It's going to stabilize blood sugar levels and insulin levels. You're going to have an energy boost, much, much more energy. It's going to create that sort of longer, more toned physique that everybody wants. It's going to improve sex drive. You know, I would say 80% of women who come to see us have low sex drive. This is a measure of vitality in women. And when we don't have sex drive, and unless there's some medical reason for it, it just means that we're too depleted. So what this does is help restore some of that as well. And it also improves lymphatic system draining as well. So a lot of really, really good benefits. So take this opportunity to get fit, to get happy and healthy, and be at the weight that you want to be. So we put together some great weight loss products for you. We don't sell weight loss kits because, you know, weight loss or weight is an indication of an imbalance, of something going wrong. But we have put together some things that we would use with a client if they were out of balance in this way and they want to rebalance their weight. So I'll be giving a weight loss kit free to one of you. Everything in this kit is really good for rebalancing digestion. Think of it as your metabolism balancing kit. It comes with triphala. Remember that herb that we talked about that's a really good antioxidant and also tones the body. Comes with trichotoo, the 3 pungents that fires up that digestive fire. Comes with your dosha oil because it's really important that you calm that central nervous system through a self-massage with the oil that has the herbs in that's right for you. And a tongue scraper because we want to remove any digestive toxins. But you know, each one of you has your own health story, and that I just can't hear about in a webinar. Even though I can help guide you now through what is right for weight loss, and our team have come up with all the things that we can to sort of help you through this crazy time, as we're hearing that people have put on a lot of weight, including me. You know, not just weight, but some of us have actually been drinking too much as well. So it's either food or drink. But because I can't personalize what is right for you, I can't really understand why you may be retaining weight. And I think the reason that we are so successful at the Holistic Highway and help so many clients where you are right now to reach your ideal weight or your ideal health goals is because of our mantra, or our ethos, if you like, which is one size does not fit all. There is no one drug that suits all people, or nutritional program, or one kind of diet, as I've just shown you, or even one kind of herb that's going to suit all people, because you are unique. And that's why we developed our personalized wellness programs, because if we work one-on-one, we can personalize and get to know you and what's going on with you, your pain points, if you like. So here's how our programs work on a personalized level. When we work one-on-one, we do it by creating customized wellness plans that meet your specific health needs, really based upon understanding who you are. So we go very deep into who you are. We spend 2 to 4 hours looking at that. That's your bio-individuality. And we do this by exploring all aspects of what makes you, you. Now, in our programs, we do include genetic testing as well. And that way we can really get to know you right down to that molecular level. And then this knowledge is combined with the information from an Ayurveda consultation. That way we can create this really comprehensive wellness plan that meets your specific health needs. So for example, are you eating the right foods in the right seasons? We've just looked at what's right for each season. Are you getting up at the right time and going to bed at the right time for you? And if you're out there exercising, are you actually working against you? Are you exercising too much so your body's under stress? So you're undoing all that hard work that you're doing? Also, just as important, does your genetic tests tell us that some foods that otherwise seem fine may actually be the cause of things like weight gain or low energy or stress on the body? So it is really important to find out the answers to those questions. And then that results in a customized wellness plan that is based upon an Ayurveda diagnosis of all your symptoms and imbalances. Also, combined with the knowledge from your genetic makeup, we're going to end up with this really multifaceted plan that's broken down into exercise support, lifestyle support, herbal support, stress support, even mental health support too. So we do tell you what to eat for your body type and goals, when to sleep, how to exercise, so everything is tailored to you personally. Ayurveda in Sanskrit means the science of life or the science of longevity. So it really is a blueprint for how to live the rest of your life with health and vitality. And that's what we want for you. So here's what I'd like to do. We can schedule a time for us to chat in a couple of days and go much deeper into who you are and what you may be struggling with and why weight is causing a problem for you. So if you attended the webinar live tonight, you're going to get an email shortly with a link where you can schedule a complimentary consultation. Also enter the draw to win a free kit and a copy of the 25-day Ayurveda cleanse. But remember that this competition is only open to those who attended live today. Entries will close tomorrow at 5. Obviously, we just can't keep it open indefinitely. We'll also be sending you tonight's recording as well and a number of really helpful follow-up resources. You know, the spring foods list, the kitchery. We'll send you a tip sheet of everything we've talked about today. So you have everything that you need as well. So at this point, it was great to spend this time with you tonight. My voice is going a little bit. And I want to thank you for helping us guide you just a little in this very trying time still, so that you can put into practice some of these weight loss techniques, lose that extra 15 to 20 pounds that I hear most people have put on. But I'd like to open it up for any questions right now. Lisa, unmute yourself, love, and see if there's any questions that we can answer.
So far, lots of thank yous.
Thank you, thank you.
But not any questions just yet.
That means either it was so clear or it means everybody's so confused that they don't even know where to start. Then I am here for you. So if there's no questions about what we talked about tonight, then thoroughly enjoy talking to some of you in the next few weeks, and you'll get all the information by tomorrow morning. All right. All right. Good night, everybody. Take care.